Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I want to welcome you to our inaugural episode of Beyond the Game. In these particular shows, we're going to cover some relative human aspects of sports. Today, I'm going to be joined by my special guest and my friend, Coach Mark Buttle. Coach Buttle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Valle.
Well,
appreciate it.
If you guys don't know Coach Mark Buttle, boy, you're missing out. I tell you what, he is a legend here in San Benito. He is a cross-country coach. He's been here. Let me put it to you this way. When I first met Coach Buttle, I had hair. And that's a long time ago, pal. Okay? So Coach Buttle's been here quite a while, and I can say, pal, I think your hair was a little different color.
Yes, it was a different color.
So what year did you come down to San Benito, Mark?
1980. I got here in 1980. We came from Michigan, and they hired me over the phone to come teach.
And that's totally awesome. And like I tell you, it's been a long time. I graduated in 1979. We're up there in age, pal. We've been around. You know, we've been around for quite a while. But I wanted to make sure that in our inaugural show, I wanted to present someone who has made a difference in our community here in San Benito. Mark Buttle is one of those coaches. Mark, you've coached cross country for many, many years. You've had an incredible amount of athletes that have gone through our program. And a lot of folks at home may not realize how successful our cross-country program has been throughout the years.
It has been pretty successful. We've had kids that go to state. We always have teams that go to regionals, and they get up there and compete.
Now, let's ask about your background. Did you run in high school?
I ran in high school and at Hemlock High School. And back in those days, we ran a 2-mile race. Anyone could run that. Yeah.
And did you run in college?
I ran in college. I ran for Lake Superior State University, and I was the 5th man. That means I was the slowest guy on the team.
Isn't that something? Yeah. And yet, here you are, still running today.
Still running, yes.
In case you guys didn't know, Mark Buttle yesterday ran a half marathon. Mark, just exactly how many miles is that?
13.1.
Yeah, I want him to say it. 13.1. I can barely say it. Trust me, I couldn't run it. Okay. So, Mark, you've made an impact on our kids here in San Benito, a really positive impact.
Thank you.
You know, I can go back to, I remember coaching back even in the early 90s, and you had a really strong team when a lot of people didn't know about cross country here in San Benito.
Right.
And I can bring up 2 athletes that come to mind in particular. One, of course, is Danny De La Rosa.
Oh, yes.
And the other one is Edmund Chapa.
Edmund Chapa.
Now, can you tell the folks at home just a little bit about these guys?
Sure. Basically what it was is we didn't have much going on in cross country. I think we had 2 or 3 runners at the time. And Coach Tommy Roberts was the athletic director at the time, and he asked me if I would do cross country. And what it was is he had a bunch of little guys that, you know, they're a little too small for football, let's put it that way, and so he shoved them my direction, but they were great athletes. And Edmund Chapa was one of them. He weighed about 85 pounds, and he says he was a buck 100, which meant he weighed, 100 pounds, but I don't think he was under 100 pounds. And Coach Danny De La Rosa was another one. We had Marco Longoria, Rini Garcia, Rena Gonzalez, and a bunch of other guys that were very good. Another one was Frank Lopez. He was the young kid of the group. He was a sophomore. And these kids just ran well, and they were very competitive. And honestly, we won every meet that we ran.
Now, I remember Chapa. Danny was also one of our football players on the freshman squad.
Yeah.
And both of them played receiver because they were so small.
Yeah, and fast.
That's where they had to play. We didn't have anywhere else to put them. I remember Edmund Chapa, and I'm not making fun of Edmund. Edmund, you're a great guy. But I still remember when Edmund, his helmet wobbled all over the place because we didn't have a helmet small enough to fit his head.
Yeah.
You know, and he had those shoulder pads were big. So
yeah.
During this period of time, was this like the most successful or like the start of your success as far as cross country?
Well, what it was is, that was the start of it. Once they made the commitment to leave football and just go 100% running cross country, then we were able to put miles in. And at their junior year then, we were ranked 7th in the state at that time. And we were winning everything we ran. the funny thing is as fast as Danny De La Rosa was, he was my fifth man.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, I had 4 other guys that were actually faster than he was, and it was incredible, and it was an easy thing to coach because they were so talented.
Now let me ask you, how much difference in training did you have from then to now? Is there a difference?
Pretty much the same. I mean, we don't do anything different. It's the same workouts, and we go. Believe it or not, back in those days, we went once a day, and we would do it all at once. And
Really?
now we go twice a day. Yeah, we would go after school, and we had this route that we began calling it the turkey route because people would look at us and go, look, they said we looked like a bunch of turkeys. Yeah, the grass was tall enough, they see it was our heads, and so it became known as a turkey route. But we would run probably about 8 miles every night, Monday through Thursday, and then Saturday, go compete.
So just like any other successful program, you guys were putting in an incredible amount of time.
A lot of time, a lot of miles, and all through the summer. Yeah.
Now, as far as success, your boys' team, who would you say would probably be the most successful runner of them all?
Out of all the
and I know that's a loaded question. It's kind of tough.
I've had an awful lot of successful runners and athletes. I've had some kids that would come and want to come out for cross country and might weigh over 180 pounds, and they go down to 130 pounds and actually compete. That's a great athlete. And I've had quite a few of those guys. But probably Edmund Chapa is probably the runner that won a lot of races, wound up his senior year running in Beijing, China. He went over there. We were able to get up enough fundraiser, enough money to get him over there. They took 40 of the top Americans, and he wound up being the first American across the line.
Something? Yeah, Edmund Chapa, old Edmund Chapa.
Yeah.
What a great guy. What a great story. As a matter of fact, I
Amazing.
ran into him probably maybe about a year ago or so. Ran into him at a convenience store, so it was great seeing him.
Still
He
runs.
hasn't changed.
No.
He's grown about 2 inches, but other than that, he hasn't changed.
Still runs, yeah. That's
Now,
right.
what about we talked about the training. You said that it's still the same. What about the technology in your shoes?
Oh, man. Shoes is one of those things that has really evolved. We used back in my days, we'd use Converse All-Stars. That's all we had, canvas shoes. But today, we got a bunch of really cool shoes that prevent you from, turning your ankle and all this kind of stuff. We run in spikes that weigh about 2 ounces. It's a big difference.
It's a big, and I know because you helped me out with one of my foot problems, and I have switched. Now that's all I wear. That particular shoe, that particular brand, because of the technology that's built into these shoes. It's incredible. So I can only imagine how much they help your runners.
Yeah.
Now,
Put a lot of miles on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, as far as some of your kids that have gone on from high school to college, do you have any? This is a pretty interesting question I'm about to ask you. How many kids do you think have been offered scholarships through your program or because of your program?
We've probably, everybody we train, usually the top 5 are offered something. And usually. And it's because there's a lot of small colleges out there that want runners and, places we never heard of. And they'll pay for it.
And that's that's a big plus for for kids, especially from down here in America. Well, for anybody,
sure, I tell
when you
them,
get your school paid for.
Who cares where it is, as long as they pay for it? And we always have somebody that's
Isn't that something?
Some girls and boys that are needed, and they get scholarships and they go and run.
Now you just mentioned girls too.
Yeah.
And you've had success with the girls program also.
Yeah. Yes, as a matter of fact, when I first got started, I had both boys and girls, which now I do it again. But we had Sandy Garcia, unbelievable, real quiet girl. And I remember her at the regional meet getting knocked down and trampled on, and I never saw her get angry, but she got real angry that day and wound up finishing 5th at the regional meet, qualifying for state, and went up to state. And I remember it snowed the day she ran up in Round Rock. But
isn't that something?
Great athlete. And yeah, she was recruited by South Plains Community College way out in Level Land. I didn't know where Level Land was.
Right.
But she got recruited and went.
And then you also had a young lady by the name of Brenda.
Oh, yeah, Brenda Lopez.
Brenda Lopez.
You better believe it. Brenda Lopez ran for this program, and Danny De La Rosa helped train her also. And she was a lot of speed. She wound up being, what was it, 5th in the state. She ran 10:53, which is faster than some of my boys. And I think she's the 5th fastest in the history of the Rio Grande Valley.
We're going to pause for a moment, and we'll be right back with more of the interview with Mark Buttle.
Well, we get out here at Cottonwood twice a week, and the kids come out to the golf course, and they actually get to really feel what a real golf course is. And we don't, obviously we don't have a golf course in San Benito. So for a lot of these kids, it's their first exposure to a legit golf course. And here at Cottonwood, it's beautiful. They have everything the kids need to learn. It's a short course. So getting the kids out here and just exposing them to that is what we're doing. There's a lot of different things they can learn with golf. Obviously there's etiquette. It's a game of honor and tradition. They have to come out here. We check their grades before they come out here, their behavior. So they can know how to act on the golf course. We teach them about the rules, meeting other people and exposing them to the game of golf and the tradition.
It's fun to walk around and look at other people play golf so you can learn. And it's just fun to be outside. The hardest part about golf is hitting the ball straight and trying to make it into the hole. Yes, I plan to keep playing golf because it's fun and just good exercise.
Oh, this is Cottonwood Creek Country Club. It's a 9-hole course, par 3. Longest hole is 200 yards. The shortest hole is 84. It's a fun course, and the thing about this course for kids, especially when they're first learning, they're not big enough to hit the ball a long ways. So you have a course this size, it's just right for them. What's most important in golf is chipping and putting. So when you get kids out here practicing, they don't get discouraged, and they can learn the short game, which is most important. As I've always said, any kid that is playing golf or involved in sports doesn't have time to get in trouble. And usually the kids that are involved in sports keep their grades up to be involved. So to me, that's a plus.
Kids, all they need to do is be in middle school, or 6th grade, 7th grade is where we start them. Even if they're 6th graders, they can't compete in golf, but we'd be more than happy to expose them to the sport and get them out there. I know Coach Valle wants to work on some summer programs this year just to get the kids out here and to get them playing golf. Golf it's a wonderful game. Like I said, not everybody has the means or the transportation to do it, but when we can get the kids out here and expose them to it and teach them the game, the fundamentals and how to play the game, a lot of them will stick with it, and that's what we're shooting for.
Coach Garza, that was a great story you just put. You keep doing the good work, and good luck to those junior high golfers. Folks, one of the things that Mark Buttle talks about when we have conversations is not only do we impact, in your case certainly, and just any other coach, you don't just coach the sport. You work so much on investing in the kids themselves. Yeah. And just because they didn't place a district or because they didn't come in first, that doesn't mean that you're not putting all the effort and time into them as a student, as a child. Yeah.
Well, we want them to make good life choices, and because these universities aren't going to recruit somebody who's failing their classes and just doing things they shouldn't be doing, and so it's real important to make life choices. And I try to model that. I try to not only be a good coach, but a good father sort of thing. Now it's a good grandfather. I'm kind of getting old, but and be able to do that so that they know there's some solid things going on in the world, and in life. And so that's what the main thing is, to make good life choices. We become a family.
That's great.
That's what it is.
Now, one of the things is you have in your classroom, you have your wall of fame.
Oh yeah.
You've got pictures from all over the place and a whole bunch of different kids.
Yeah.
If you had to pick a picture out there, what do you think? Which one would you pick to be one of your favorite ones?
I think probably Danny De La Rosa finishing the state meet with his hands up because he just beat some of the fastest kids in the state. That's one of my favorite. Of course, it's in black and white because it was so long ago. I've got some other ones up there. I've got Edmund Chapa is up there. Currently, I've got one of my favorite ones is with this year. We went to the regional meet and actually got introduced to the McFarland, the real McFarland guy. Javier, what's his name? Javier Valles?
Valles.
Yes.
Valles.
Yes, and he was the guy, one of the real guys of the McFarland cross country team, and he looked us up. He looked Joaquin up. He looked Stephanie Chavez up, and who had qualified, and he wanted to know who these San Benito kids were, and it was so cool to see him. It was like gravy on the end of a good season.
Which is really interesting because that man is actually connected to San Benito by marriage.
Yeah.
And that was really interesting when Mark came, oh, hey, man, the coolest thing just happened this past weekend, right?
Yeah.
And to have that
He
gentleman
looked us up and wanted to see us. Yeah.
Come look for
So
San
cool.
Benito,
Yeah.
the cross-country team. And here you have a man who, they made a movie,
Yeah.
and he was the main runner in the
main
movie.
runner,
And this
yeah.
was the actual guy, so that's pretty neat,
It was
Mark.
cool. It was nice. Yep.
Again, constantly making positive impacts, with our children here in San Benito CISD.
That's right,
You've
yeah.
been doing it for
Need to do
an
it.
incredibly long time. As a friend of yours, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you,
But I
Henry.
tell you what, Mark, I see your program year in and year out, and you constantly have kids. What is your biggest challenge with recruitment?
Well, I'll tell you what, the hardest thing, and it sounds pretty easy, but it's the hardest thing, is to get up in the morning, every morning at 6 o'clock, be there at 6 o'clock. And I missed some good athletes probably because I said, look, we meet at 6 o'clock. We also meet during the day, but in the morning. And they'll look at me and go, oh, I don't get up that early. It's like, so that's the biggest challenge is to, once they start doing it, it becomes routine and everything's fine. But boy, some of them it's difficult to get up in the morning.
Now,
it is for me.
and there's no difference than any other high school varsity sport.
Yeah.
You start recruitment at the junior high level?
Yeah, 7th and 8th grade, I look at who's pretty good. I look at family members of kids that I've had because usually genetics is a part of it as well. And we have a good group coming up, both boys and girls. I'm looking at some kids that are going to be probably really good.
The other neat thing is that sometimes I see you guys out there in the morning, and some of your former athletes are out there with your runners.
Yeah, that's what's fun.
What kind of impact does that have on your program when you have some of your former runners coming over?
Because the young kids, Joaquin included, and the guys that we're running with, Roy, the freshman, what they do is they hear the stories. And then when this guy actually shows up, they know all about this guy already.
That's neat.
And then when they get on, they start running and this guy takes it to them. It might be Hector Becerra, Froggy, we used to call him Froggy, and he shows up, or Rafa Dunas shows up, and they just take it to him.
To train your guys.
Yeah.
And make them better.
And run them into the ground. It's just like, oh my goodness, this is for real.
Just to show them that they can do it.
This is it. This is what you become.
Now, if you had to tell the folks at home, as far as your program, what you would like for them to do, if any of their children want to be, partake in cross country, what would you tell them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, is encourage their children to run if they want to run. And the main thing is to encourage them to, if they got to get to a practice, get to the practice, take them to the practice. You might want to get them some good shoes. Otherwise, we'll get them some good shoes. We'll make sure that takes place. And just encourage them to eat right, sleep right, and come prepared, ready to run.
Now, one thing we didn't cover was in cross country compared to track. Folks at home may not quite understand the difference. What's the difference, Mark?
Big difference is cross country is done on a trail. It's not done on a track, and so every course is different. You have hills, you might have some mud, you might have some dirt, you might have pavement. And it is sometimes always not the same distance. And according to UIL, you can run a meet, and it could be a 6-mile race. instead of a 3-mile race, and that's legal. It can't be over 6 miles.
So your typical race is 3 miles?
About 3 miles, yes. In track, the distance, it's a 2-mile run, and it is on the track, and it's 2 miles every time.
Right.
So, and it's a little more speed involved. Girls today in Texas will run 3 miles. They used to run 2, and so that's kind of changed it a little bit because people can usually come out and run 2 miles and compete with not a lot of practice. But that extra mile now has really changed girls' athletics because now they go 3 miles.
So you don't necessarily do all of your training on a track. You guys go out, and the idea is to try and vary the terrain.
Yeah. We have a trail on the school. We call it the turkey route. But as a matter of fact, we're going to try to get it put some crushed granite on there. Boy, that would be good. So we can do it all the time. But that's where we run. We run over the hills. It's a 1.5 mile course around our high school, and people see us running, and they usually watch out for us. But that's the main thing. Is sometimes we'll go to other parks. We used to go down to the Haven Trail, places like that where it's safe, and yet we can get a good 8 miles in, and it's not boring.
Sure. I mean, I would see you guys, and I'd see some of the kids with blinkers. The kids, and you could see the blinkers. Okay, there goes Mark and his guys.
Yeah.
So that's great. Again, training 2 times a day.
Yes, about 8 miles in the morning, 8 miles at night.
Wow, that's a lot of running.
Yes, it is.
Wow. Well, there you have it, folks. That's coming from Coach Mark Buttle, a legend here in San Benito. He may not think so, but man, you've done a great job with your program.
Thank you, Henry. Appreciate it.
And I certainly want to, wish you continued success. We certainly hope you guys come back for another edition of Beyond the Game. I'm Henry Valle. I'll see you guys at the next one.